Out of the gate here, we are going to be kicking things off on well. We have seen the odd McCree or Super McCree comp. We've also seen a little bit of goats. We've seen some deviations now as well on the Super McCree. So all bets are kind of off here.
Yeah, there's a lot to sort of look for, but one thing I do want to point out very quickly, and you kind of picked up on this, but Froppy is back on the team. Usually we have seen Buxer and Ref, so this is Froppy's first match back with the Paradigm in the season.
Be back onto the Lucio as well for himself, and that is also going to be a mirrored Rhine Goats. So not the asymmetric that we saw in our matchup just been. Nor is it going to be the Pharaohs that we were seeing in our first matchup of the day. So, Luke's team getting the better of this as PHOENiX just kind of pressuring New Paradigm here. Frost is the casualty, an immediate conversion onto the rest as PHOENiX get aggressive, going to rout New Paradigm.
See the timing there as well. They have 3 seconds to go before the point actually opens, and they get the early cap as well as a decent cleanup on New Paradigm. And the early positioning is what really wins it out for them. You can see just pushing New Paradigm out to that opening space, similar to what we saw from previous matches. Honko Attitude versus Giant comes to mind, and now for New Paradigm, have to go for the reset. Now behind in many regards, especially with one player down.
That's such a late catch there, or is it indeed early? But a rough one at the very least. And that's with New Paradigm actually leading in ult charge on the Earth Shatter, significantly over Melon. But if they're not able to ever get in close, that doesn't matter.
With Ref going down, he has slowed down on the ult charge as well. Pixie has already gotten the first ult of the game. And if PHOENiX wanted to, they could get quite aggressive here with that advantage, but they don't want to feed too much unnecessary fights into New Paradigm as they are close to their own, and now they do have a grab and an Urshan as they rotate back in.
Yeah, it's a good rotation out of New Paradigm, looking to try and get straight back in this. Not much conversion out of the grab, double rally, shattered down, that's decent. Nice bump onto Powu. He's not going to be able to recover from that, unfortunately.
There's another bump.
Oh, Ref is the one to go down this time around. Frost as well getting picked off, and New Paradigm struggling to make any headway in the fight despite decent connection on both of those ultimates.
And this is where PHOENiX really turn it on as well, because they have still the Graviton to use despite Powu going into the well. Ref committed the Transcendence and then still went into the well, so they lose all value on that ultimate completely. Pixie already used his Transcendence, already halfway to his Nyx and more. He counters out the effects of both the tank ultimates on New Paradigm's side, and now going to the next 75%. We're already 3/4 of the way through.
Now just looking for another angle into the fight. Early pick on Ref once again. Self-destruct to layer on top of this Graviton. So it's a bit of an awkward placement on the self-destruct, but doesn't really matter. The grab was more than enough, and now at 90%, New Paradigm still have yet to make any headway in this game.
It's even a late kill into Froppy as well, which just slows things down. Iron's got going to the Doomfist here. Try and get back to the point quickly. Tito is lucky he didn't get demeched, and so quickly Iron falls.
Yeah, this is a really awkward position now for New Paradigm. They're already coming in at a numbers disadvantage as Iron had to dive in. That's a good trade kill though onto LCB, and they are actually backcapping now, so that puts pressure on PHOENiX to pull back. Teto up at the self-destruct, needs to be able to make a huge double boot from Froppy. Really just proven his worth there very quickly and handily. They do still lose Frost in the mix of that one, but New Paradigm have finally got some headway on the point.
Massive plays coming up from Froppy there. He's freshly back onto the team and already making his name known. And for New Paradigm, they needed that fight win so badly. Just have to get Frost back into the mix now. Iron swapping back onto the Brigadier after a short stint on the Doomfist. Has to reset his ultimate completely. But this is where New Paradigm can start rotating and start getting these ultimates into economy, because they do have very soon double support ultimates as well as an Earth Shatter to play with. Meanwhile, PHOENiX don't really have anything just yet.
Just needing to find the right time to throw that one down here is Frost. I ideally want to combo it up with the bash, and there it goes. Huge connection. They only finish off Powu, but the rest are in dire straits as they get back on their feet, and it's not going to be on their feet for very long. Nice hold there by New Paradigm. And
they can just continue rotating through ultimates because PHOENiX don't have good enough charge yet. Nearly double support ultimates for both Ilsubi and Pixie, but they're only just catching up to both Froppy and Ref right now. We still have a New Paradigm side where Unknown is a decent amount ahead of Powu. They can still win this next fight, and they may be rotating to more ultimates for the following fight and really start to push towards their own overtime.
New Paradigm finally kind of found their feet. Now that they're on them, they're looking relatively unstoppable, but
the charge.
The moment's notice, Vendetta pushing forward to try and open the gates here. Double Transcendence coming out here. New Paradigm gonna go ahead, commit a grab, commit a self-destruct, nicely laid on top of that one. But by the time it finishes running down, everyone's already dead.
This is where, for PHOENiX, unfortunately, probably pressing the Transcendence a little too early there, taking too much damage, feeling pressure to use it. You prefer to save the Transcendence for something like the Graviton Surge. Elsubi technically didn't have the sound barrier, but chooses not to use it. Going to this final fight now, PHOENiX, they do bank up. By not using the sound barrier, they have now going into 5 ultimates for the final fight. If they win one fight, they can win this round.
All it takes is one good Earth Shatter from Frost. That's maybe not the ideal one. Victorious rescued there, but not the loss.
Better.
Self-destruct to try and preserve that one sound barrier to save New Paradigm, but not Frost, unfortunately. And now New Paradigm sorely on the back foot here. Haven't really got any of those counter trades that they sorely need. Tito, D-Mech before he can get a self-destruct up and Unknown close to a grab. Will have to commit it, has no choice, but also has to be his own follow-up for it. And there's just no one else there that can do it, unfortunately. Unknown going to get finished off. In the mix of all of that, PHOENiX are going to secure well.
There it is, PHOENiX just taking that final fight, really banking up for it, and you've got to say, losing everything up, well, losing the middle section there, getting up to 99%, forcing the overtime, having the flip, having New Paradigm go all the way up to their own overtime. But PHOENiX have the amount of remaining time to get those 5 ultimates up and available. They were only missing one on Pixie, who, by the way, I have to really commend, because a lot of the winning fights for PHOENiX in that initial 99% that they got charged up, they found so many early kills. Most of it came from Pixie. Ref went down twice. Eind went down very quickly to Pixie. He was charging so many Transcendences time and time again. This guy's been a very big factor for PHOENiX so far.
A lot of F's in that sentence. I'm very impressed. New Paradigm as well really struggled in the earlier stages. That now that they're looking a little bit cleaner, tidier, maybe shaken off the rust a touch. See if this opening skirmish is a bit more competitive.
Teams are going to start out on the small bridge again. Look for the timing of the boops here, especially because Frost is on low ground.
Oh, nice bump though onto Melon. Frost was able to recover back up, and now this is going to be PHOENiX having to rotate down onto the point. Tito's a bit low, so it's hard for New Paradigm to put pressure on. In fact,
early damage
here as well. Huge damage to come out from the side of PHOENiX, and no counter trades just yet. Properly going down as well. I think New Paradigm just have to let this one go, try and not get routed.
Here you see PHOENiX, they just force New Paradigm off that initial point, forcing them to rotate back around, and as they do so, New Paradigm, they just lose way too much position, take too much damage, and PHOENiX find all the connections that they need to. They have ult advantage here, just slightly in some regards. Ref actually has the first Transcendence, so that is a pretty big factor for them.
New Paradigm getting not off to that great start, but that is a much better one now in this one. Early Transcendence to give them legs in the fight, and they get aggressive. That's a reasonable grab out of Pawu, but it's harder to get that follow up when it's just him. They really want that Reinhardt in the mix there. Face Yule's Transcendence now to keep the team safe. As the grab comes out from Unknown, they find Vendetta in the middle of it, and Pace Yule, the moment the grab runs out, he is down and out for the count. Now New Paradigm are going to be the ones wresting control back from the point in much better time.
Super well calculated there by New Paradigm. They know they have the Transcendence advantage, so they're pushing aggressively. Most teams would probably choose to save the Transcendence for something like a counter to the Graviton Surge. They know because there's nothing on the PHOENiX side, if they get an early pick, they win.
Oh, huge damage to come out from Frost here in this very tight, narrow corridor here. Good response from Melon, but he goes down before he gets too much follow-up. This may be a bit of a boo-boo there out of Pawu.
They got eaten
straight into Tato's self-defense matrix, rather. And that's New Paradigm just extending the lead a little.
They did even see a pretty decent connection on the Earth Shatter from Melon, but not enough to follow up. And for New Paradigm as well, they had the ultimates charged through. They have now Unknown, about to get onto another grab. Pawu just used one, which is a little bit unfortunate for them, as they're now losing any progression advantage they've previously had. 43% on both sides.
This is where New Paradigm just want to rotate through ultimates. Coming up on that grab soon, provided no one dies before that. There it goes, thrown out. Double self-destruct. Victorious! Wow! And suddenly the script is flipped, ladies and gentlemen. New Paradigm end up sorely behind in this one. PHOENiX will start rotating into ultimates. And sometimes that's just how the cards fall.
And it's very much like what we saw in Well as well. Just a very quick double kill from Froppy, hooping 2 members into the well. This time around, it's a triple from Victorious on the self-destruct. And PHOENiX just needs something to turn things back around. It's not a huge lead for New Paradigm. 54% to 66. It's not like the 99-0 that was faced by New Paradigm previously. This is still a very good position now for PHOENiX to be in.
But Pawu coming up on a Graviton Surge. Melon not too far from a Shatter. Frost has really got to have a big connection here. It's okay, but it's not enough. to follow up on before the grab comes out. Nice counter with the barrier, and there's Melon's shatter. That is plenty enough to seal this fight. So PHOENiX just timing out all those ultimates and all those cooldowns so well.
New Paradigm had a slight ultimate advantage there. No longer is the case, as PHOENiX is now going to start cleaning a few members out. Slow death for Tedo there. Just going to slow things down even further as we head into 90%. But this could be the 2-0 cleanup onto Ilios that PHOENiX are looking for to close out map 1. We're not too far away now, and neither team has an ultimate.
It's just going to be a straight naked fight. Nobody with anything in particular in the pocket. That's a lot of pain on Frost. Froppy's trying to back cap here to buy some time, and it may work. There's the grab out from Unknown, but Frost was already dead. No one could follow up on it. And this back cap's just pittance at this point. PHOENiX will re-grab, and I don't even think New Paradigm will actually get time to respawn for a full 6, because you see on the point, Tano and Froppy are still contesting. They're going to die before the rest of the team actually gets there. They pushed up to 80%, but to what end? For what cause? Now it's just Ref and Frost stuck alone in this grab. No support to come in. The self-destruct can't even kill anyone. Ein's dead now. Unknown's not going to get close enough to the point. That's going to be the 2-0 completed for PHOENiX. And I think New Paradigm just threw away an opportunity.
I don't know that they had an opportunity, because the problem is the timing was off for New Paradigm going into that last push. You already had a PHOENiX side that was pushing very aggressively, trying to force an early fight. The options were clear there. You either take that fight and then potentially not get to the point on time, which was part of what happened, or you try and run past, you try and avoid the brawl, which case you lose members as you do that, you take free damage, and you can't take the fight anyway.
I mean, good setup by PHOENiX.
It's almost a lose-lose scenario, unfortunately, for New Paradigm. Going for the back cap, unfortunately, does put them in a situation where it's a guaranteed 5 versus 6. Froppy might be getting the point, but as you sort of mentioned, then as the game played out, when you lose that 5 versus 6, you do get the cap, but it is just going to be a very quick recap, and you have no real win condition. But I'm not too sure that there was much that could be done, regardless if they had maybe not had too many late deaths on their last defeat on the fight, and then regrouped a little bit quicker. Maybe they out-rotate, they outsmart the PHOENiX sort of defense there, so to speak, and they get to out-rotate directly onto the point and force a fight on the cap. That would be ideal, but things certainly don't pan out that way always.
Yeah, and let's also be completely honest, that's not the only thing that lost them Ilios there. I mean, there's getting caught by the self-destruct from Vendetta earlier on Ruins, when they were otherwise in quite a... Sorry, you're quite right, Victorious, the other V name. When they were otherwise in quite a good position. And then there's also Well, where they took a really long time to get going. There were a lot of fights there that were potentially winnable as well. Not guaranteed wins, not coming in at a huge advantage or sometimes even any advantage, but not really at a disadvantage, or at least not much. But they continued to lose fights, continued to get picked out. Took them a long time to kind of shake that one off. And after they did, they looked better, but still not quite good enough. It does just seem that PHOENiX are kind of firing on all cylinders, at least compared to New Paradigm today. And
right now, that would be the case. A 2-0 cleanup onto Ilios. We don't even go to the third stage there of Lighthouse. Things might have been swapped up. Things might have been looking a little bit better for New Paradigm, who I don't want to say shaky at the moment. They just seem like they were ever slightly pushed out by PHOENiX, who are just currently
not warmed up yet.
Who are currently edging them out at this point, but I don't know that it's going to be the case for the rest of the series, because as you sort of alluded to, their New Paradigm did have opportunities to turn things back around, especially onto Well. That was very competitive, 99-99 going onto next map here. Number 2 hybrid is going to be Numbani. I do expect New Paradigm to step it up a notch to match PHOENiX.
I think Numbani would be the ideal place to do it as well. One thing we do talk about a lot, especially here in the Pacific region, is the flexibility of these teams. We see a very wide variety of team comps, Numbani being just one such place that we see some of our widest variety. So this is where there is an opportunity for either or even both of these teams to kind of get away from the goats a little bit, play something that's a little bit more to the beat of their drum, and as such, edge out their opponent on Numbani here. You'd like to think, having picked it as well, New Paradigm should be able to do just that.
Yeah, and we've seen some very good performances out of New Paradigm in previous weeks, even when they were losing. I think even their match versus Hong Kong Attitude was reasonably competitive. So I don't expect this to be a very one-sided affair. We already did have a full 5-map series just earlier. We also then had an 0-4, but right now I'm expecting this one to be more of the former as we now head into map number 2. It is, of course, Numbani.
We'll be having that one up just a few hot seconds. I do like Numbani. And one of the things I've liked about it so far, especially this season, as I kind of alluded to earlier, So the deviation in team comps that we have been getting, we've seen a lot of even traditional dive coming out here, just because of how that high ground around the point is, right? Dive is still good there. It still helps you get up quickly, contest the high ground. We have also still seen goats. We've seen a lot more asymmetry. The one thing we haven't really seen is flat bunker compositions. We've seen Super McCree, and now as we see coming into this game, we're going to be seeing a Doomfist. And this is an old school dive from New Paradigm, just about.
Yeah, it's certainly a very classic dive. The only difference here is Ref playing the Brigida, which is not super standard. Does open up some potential for them.
Now, PHOENiX, how will they respond? This is good pressure on the point from New Paradigm, so that puts it on PHOENiX to get down into the low ground. But with New Paradigm so mobile and themselves able to contest members of PHOENiX to try and pull back, but Frost going down, and now New Paradigm lose a lot of their pressure. Good trade back though, and now they pick off Vendetta. Suddenly there is no pressure to come out from PHOENiX. New Paradigm just kind of playing that one, painting it by numbers.
They're about to get this cap now. There's just not enough response coming up from PHOENiX. And Vendetta was a player that I was really keeping my eye on, because as a Doomfist going up against a dive, there's a very high possibility that you just find a punch kill out of nowhere that gives you such a great advantage in terms of players, but that never just really happened. And New Paradigm find the picks they're looking for because they're trying to play objective and play for point. This is where the Brigida pick really goes well for them, because you can find the shield bashes, you can get high value on the AoE healing, and they get a very quick cap going to B. Victorious not ready for the EMP.
Yeah, choosing to stay on this. They don't quite have the ultimates yet, and that's a very quick commit on the EMP. Good call from PHOENiX. They stayed on the Sombra there because they wanted to use that. I wouldn't be surprised if Victorious does change up now.
We have a sort of situation where both Unknown and Eind are about to have ults, when the fact of Unknown already does have one. And getting Vref with the rally, this is what you get to see in this iteration of Dive, is the bonus 100 armor on these more squishy DPSs, especially the Tracer, who now gets 250 total HP, 100 of which will be armor, is a big deal for both Eind and Unknown.
But actually keeping the Sombra in here is another kind of way to potentially shut down, especially the Genji if he's ulting. Even just a right-click hack when he's joining the EMP is so huge. Speaking of, that's going to be the Genji going in deep. Transcendence from Pixie to just kind of neuter that one. Unknown also not quite connecting on the Pulse Bomb. So all things kind of return to their neutral state, but good flank pressure from Eind, and Unknown on the back line is starting to take its toll on PHOENiX. Even with Tito getting out of the mech here, Frost is still keeping up all this pressure here, and that's Tito back in the mech anyway after the self-destruct finishes channeling. Now PHOENiX starting to turn it back around though as they at last finish off Frost, and still no real movement on the cart itself.
And I'm a little surprised Ref waited that long to use the rally as well. Wanted to use it at the start of the fight. However, you're not going to get the high value out of the ultimate by getting the 100 armor onto all your members, especially the ones that really need it. Eind maybe got 50 armor at most out of that ultimate. Went in with the Dragon Blade, got counted out by the Transcendent straight away. Vendetta, having previously swapped to the Brigida, was looking for the find onto Unknown as a Tracer player, looking for that one-shot combo. Finds it indeed, and now PHOENiX secure that defense. Going to the next offense here from New Paradigm, it is a fresh composition on the Winston Goats. They don't have ults to play with outside of Sound Barrier.
And there's that EMP from Victorious, banked back up, immediately committed right on top of these members. Frost not quite able to get saved by the Sound Barrier, and the rest of the team might not be so lucky to get back home in one piece either. Good follow-up damage though onto Vendetta. She got stunned out, a little bit overzealous there, trying to force a route, and now actually New Paradigm with a closer respawn, going to fight their way back out of the stream, isolating Melon. Now they look for Victorious, who has to translocate back to relative safety, and actually New Paradigm have got the better of that one.
It's a bit of a staggered kill onto Melon as well, because as they had respawning members there from PHOENiX, Vendetta got back alive, but Melon just goes down, which means now they had to wait for that extra respawn time to get back in 6. It's going to cost them a decent amount of distance as New Paradigm continue to push as they work up towards those thresholds.
Victoria's a fair way away from that EMP is the real heartbreaker here for PHOENiX. That's the second one they'd used, and it didn't quite have the same impact as the first, so now they have to find some other tool to use, but popping Teto out of the mech early means that anything they commit in will stick just that little bit better. I believe that is a nano boost that went on to Melon. No, it went on to Vendetta there, actually. Eind as well found out from that self-destruct. New Paradigm, they've decided to stay in this. They're committing a Primal Rage. They've got a Transcendence coming up. They want to stick in until Unknown's grab.
All right, now, PHOENiX still have members to do so. They might have lost Pixie, but they still have the 5 remaining, as well as an EMP, which could be the difference maker.
And they need to commit it now if they're going to commit it at all. There it goes, but Pawu gets out of the mech right as that happens. Ref already picked off, though, and nice catch on Froppy. Unknown is yet to be able to commit a grab, and commits it in very late. Does at least find Victorious in there and Ilsubi, so maybe be able to rescue this. No, not if Vendetta has anything to say about it. And now that New Paradigm are just kind of brawling out, they've bled themselves dry. PHOENiX have done the same, but ultimately the card is back in control of the defense and they have the more favorable spawn.
And that fight was extended for such a long time as well. New Paradigm just thinking maybe we can turn this around. Unknown as a solo player there gets himself 2 kills off the Graviton Surge. Ultimately not being enough though, like you sort of alluded to, because they had to reset anyway. The card does not progress, and they are now short on ultimates, short on time, and PHOENiX back in position to defend. The EMP absolutely saved them. Victorious now onto Azaria.
This is a bit of an awkward spot now for New Paradigm. They don't really have anything built up to go on here.
Long flank.
Good wrap around. If they can catch someone, they're in a good spot. They need not get caught in the rotation themselves. They find Vendetta. That is at least something. It's a small numbers advantage. They're looking to maybe finish off Melon. He is going to get up to safety. Has a Primal Rage coming.
Oh, that's a big kill.
Pace shield goes down. That's no Transcendence left available. Self-destruct here from PHOENiX. Not going to rescue the fight. New Paradigm. That wraparound play has ultimately worked. Left PHOENiX just a little bit off kilter.
And small kills like that just get you such huge distance, I should say, as well, and also a difference because Vendetta doesn't get his rally until just now, whereas Iron did get to use the rally. The extra 100 armor does help a lot. Getting Pace all down was the key kill. Losing the Transcendence is a big deal. PHOENiX have a bunch of ults there. They should be able to hold right now.
Very aggressive move from Melon, and actually an equally aggressive Transcendence from Ref. All these teams are just committing in everything they've got. Sound Barrier to respond to the grab. Now, Ilsubi does not have one to match here, and off the back of that, that means New Paradigm can clean up off Unknown's grab where PHOENiX could not clean up off Victorious's, and that's the payload continuing to move.
You see the discipline from Froppy there as well, just waiting to see if the damage output from PHOENiX was going to be threatening enough to warrant a Sound Barrier response. He did use it and then go into his own Graviton Surge coming up from Unknown as well, followed up by the self-destruct. The damage output from New Paradigm and the counterplay from them to read the situation to say, we can turn this around.
Early rally out, and like you said, that armor, it does stack up seriously. The Earth Shatter from Frost is okay, but they're unable to follow it up, and Frost finds himself in too deep without a hope. Unfortunately, Iron as well, similar situation. At least this is a quick loss for New Paradigm. They have less than a minute left.
The distance is so important there for New Paradigm as well because they lost so much time onto B. They need as much as possible onto C. And this is the sort of position now where, because the card is so far forward, if they win one fight, they can finish the map, and they need some time here. They ideally would not like to finish in overtime, but I suspect that's exactly where we're headed.
I mean, unless Unknown's grab is absolutely huge, yeah, it's not looking great, and PHOENiX can combo his self-destruct up with Victorious's grab, so...
Oh, that's the kill.
Will, but that's
another 65
pick. And it also means that even if Melon were to get an Earth Shatter up, they can't really enable it as
Grab's not out yet.
Still just waiting for it. There's Victorious. He's the first to commit. It's going to be the response from Ref. Self-destruct from PHOENiX. Oh, getting Unknown is really big there. And the follow-up on Unknown's grab was far from optimal. PHOENiX, they're actually holding on to this one. That's the respawn on Vendetta. You see, they went down early. That does mean he's back in the fight by now. Teto out of the mech. Not really going to be able to do much in that pilot form. Rev stuck off to the side. And with that, New Paradigm will not be completing the cap here on Numbani.
PHOENiX just hold true there. They're very risky. I would say Transcendence by Pace Solo seemed a little bit desperate. You look at New Paradigm and think this is an ideal scenario to be in. The Transcendence already forced out of their Zenyatta before you've committed the Graviton Surge, such that once you then commit the Graviton Surge, they don't have the proper defensive ultimate to block the damage coming through. But then the Sound Barrier, or rather the Transcendence, after being used by Ref as well, and Unknown putting his Graviton Surge out, didn't really hit anything. I'm pretty sure there's a good chance there that it was did get eaten by PHOENiX there because we just did not see the connection. And for New Paradigm, what was evidently going to be a very likely cap, I should probably say, ended up not being the case.
I mean, it's insult to injury, isn't it? You get the grab eaten by the defense matrix, then immediately die to the self-destruct that was channeled straight after that. I mean, it doesn't get worse. And you see now the replay of the fight. We may actually see that moment as well. That was a very aggressive Transcendence from Ref, which did steer them clear from this moment. But yeah, there it was. It just kind of went into the aether there. No one really caught in it. And at a very awkward time as well, where no one was going to be able to follow up on it. So maybe just a little bit too too happy on the trigger finger there.
And this is where you do see, despite seeing a Desperation Transcendence, they really get the value out of it because they connect the Graviton Surge, they connect the Self-Destruct, and they really make use of the fact that otherwise, if they didn't get a kill, if they didn't get enough damage off that one ultimate, it was going to be a very poor usage of that Transcendence. But PHOENiX, they come on through, they complete that defense, and now they're in a sort of position where this is not going to time bank. They can win this, they just need to push the entire distance.
Which is easier said than done, let's also be honest, and we'll give New Paradigm the credit here where it is due. They could have a decent defense on point A. And again, we're seeing different team comps once again. We're seeing a Wrecking Ball Goats, and we're seeing a Pharmacy on the defense.
Yeah, the Pharmacy is in response to the potential of Goats coming through from PHOENiX, and it is, but not the type they were expecting.
That does make it just a little bit harder to get the damage, especially onto Melon, who is playing Disrupt, but PHOENiX, they don't want to get overzealous here either. Now rotating in to pressure the point, just taking their time, patient play here. Eventually, New Paradigm will have to drop down to meet, but with PHOENiX getting demech'd actually, that's maybe a bit of a misstep now as suddenly New Paradigm can just kind of unleash. They tip the balance of the tanks in the fight. Vendetta's going to go down, and that's going to be PHOENiX forced back to spawn.
And the unfortunate thing there for PHOENiX is they just couldn't find the fight opening. You see their tanks not really well coordinated. PHOENiX goes for the dive into the high ground, then he has to drop off because he takes so much damage. Melon then dives in, uses the pile driver, but there's no one to follow up, despite it being a good commitment. He himself is eventually going to go down. PHOENiX now swapping onto a Super McCree. Vendetta on the McCree here is actually going to be very effective in pressuring out Ein.
Yeah, I really do like this change-up. Also the Winston as well over the Wrecking Ball in this situation. Partially for Vendetta's sake, but also partially just the difference in the frontline pressure, how the two play out. So, New Paradigm with some tools at their disposal need to leverage them.
It's a low ground approach as well. Oh, was caught out there. You can see the split off from PHOENiX. Half their team is completely to the side.
They're not really making any space for Vendetta to work within all this either. What?
I am on a roll.
They were resetting. That was four members resetting anyway, but it is an impressive kill feed given that.
If it weren't for the fact that he already had a Rocket Barrage, that would probably be like 50% of an ult charge.
Yeah, well, it certainly gives him all of the kill credit, which is important, and you're sort of right in that regard. You'd almost wish he'd use the Rocket Barrage
way too
just to get the next one. Not the kill feed you see every day.
Yes,
it does put a smile on your face.
Even seeing 1 or 2 conks these days is rare. But anyway, back to the fight at hand. It's going to be the Rocket Barrage enough to convert on Victorious. Bit of an expensive one so far for New Paradigm, but they do have the tools to burn, and they're able to drill down PHOENiX's mech as well, just with the overwhelming damage. And again, PHOENiX not making any headway.
So the problem with Super McCree here is you do want to set Vendetta up on the high ground to the right of where Ein is. But the problem with that is New Paradigm, first of all, have a ton of ultimates from winning previous fights. Second of all, is they're pressuring this high ground so well. You can see this is exactly where they want to set up. They're not allowing PHOENiX to walk up onto the high ground. They're spamming through the tight chokeslam. So for PHOENiX, it's a difficult place to play in. Do you play in the low ground instead? If you do, that's not where you can really make use of Vendetta's Super McCree here. There's not really a position where you can find good bash targets.
New Paradigm's still sitting on a lot to bank as well.
With 1 minute remaining.
That's the thing. I mean, even if PHOENiX break it at this point, it's going to be a very difficult slog towards the end. Unknown taking pressure, but just not going down. Finally gets dropped. Now this is PHOENIX's opportunity as they rotate into some very big ultimates. Just out Deadeye. Facial gets popped. Ein caught out by Vendetta. Rez there on Unknown and pop on Vendetta. Suddenly New Paradigm flipping the tables just a little. They don't have any more ultimates at their disposal though, and Ref does go down. This is where PHOENiX with his tank ultimates can stay in the fight here a little bit longer. New Paradigm do have the closer respawn though.
PHOENiX are rushing back in. Pixie.
This is a tough spot now. It's New Paradigm slowly starting to fall to bits. Probably going to get popped again now. And Pixie even
a lot of kills
with the rockets. That ought to be PHOENiX breaking it now. Couldn't have come any later, I got to say. And like I said, still going to be a hard slog ahead of them on the streets phase, but they still have a shot.
Yeah, just managed to break. See the Transcendence uses from Pixie as well on the high ground, on PHOENIX's original push through up the high stairs. They needed a Transcendence just to get onto the high ground, and even then, they all got forced into the low ground anyway. Vendetta only found a kill onto Ein a little while later, and not even with the Deadeye. For PHOENiX, it was a very tough fight, but they do break on through. The worrisome thing is the timing here, because they don't have a lot of time left to get onto C.
They've made a change to the team composition. I do agree with this because you can't make it any later than this. And they do kind of need the GOATs here on the streets phase, but it's going to be a slow start. It's kind of cold open. Ref comes in with a Transcendence now. Self-destruct boards. Pawu doesn't find anything, but does make a bit of space for PHOENiX to play with.
Speaking of space, Frost is making a decent amount of it. Has to watch his own life though.
Yeah, goes sky high, and that'll buy him a few more seconds of life. Actually, buys him a decent bit longer of life, but it does also give some space to PHOENiX on the cards.
And looking at the ultimates coming online now, both rallies about to be there, eyeing Dice straight away.
Huge catch, and now with the sound barrier, the rest of PHOENiX look to get aggressive, while the rest of the team holds down the fort on the payload itself. Rally to come out from Vendetta, and this is the snowball PHOENiX needed on streaks.
The thing is, for New Paradigm, they use support ultimates, they use the Primal Rage, but they couldn't find kills. Those are good stalling tools, but you need to be able to find the appropriate trades to make those worth it. They bought a lot of time, but with that time, they couldn't really make a full reset forced against PHOENiX, who are now continuing to push, have a huge advantage in terms of the Earth Shadows because Frost has only freshly changed onto his own Rhine as the cart's about to go over.
Oh, just able to get there in time. Well timed for New Paradigm. There's a huge shadow though. Already Frost is out of the picture. And PHOENiX again, they're just looking to keep the snowball going. This is decent for New Paradigm though. They do draw some ultimates out of PHOENiX, who are having to commit more and more into this fight just to ensure that they can't. But New Paradigm do through their own ultimates into the mix. Cap goes over, and still 2 minutes left to complete the map.
The good news for New Paradigm is they forced the Graviton Surge out of Victorious, so there's not going to be as heavy of a snowball for PHOENiX going on through to C, and they're going to need to be able to snowball because they still have to get the whole distance. It's not going to be a full net completion, but most of the way there, and they don't quite have the ultimates just yet, and they need time to charge.
The only trouble is they had to commit their own grab for it, and Victorious is still leading the charge, literally and figuratively here. PHOENiX trying to make space with the self-destruct, but not really getting it, and that sound barrier from Froppy gives New Paradigm a lot of room to work with, but no one on PHOENiX dead. Now it's their turn to counterattack. Sound barrier available to do so. Grab coming up as well for Victorious.
Double sound barrier, that was an Earth Shadow used.
That was not the best either out of Frost. No real opportunity for follow-up. And now this is becoming a rout for PHOENiX. New Paradigm got really greedy on that shadow. They thought they were going to get a huge connection, didn't, and were just in such an awkward spot afterwards.
And the thing is, you could say that a couple times for New Paradigm because the fight just beforehand, they used a sound barrier to try and rush in to no effect. PHOENiX, having played Stoll, having played Disciplined and Patient, they now have double tank ultimates. One connects and so does the other.
Yeah, but they haven't got the kill on Frost. They have got it on Ainz though, and that's still a numbers advantage, even with that closer spawn. Trade back onto Melon though as Frost gets dropped off. And now a huge combo. There it is from Tito, able to pick off 2 supports in the mech. That might just be enough for PHOENiX to turn things around here. Or rather, New Paradigm at the 11th hour. They are just routing PHOENiX back off the cart, but there's still 30 seconds.
PHOENiX needs to reset quickly here. Power dying quite late. Victorious lucky to get out alive. Still maintains his high energy rate, which is very important going into the final engagement and about to hit that right Graviton Surge now, which is an important step because Unknown currently does not have one. Froppy should have a sound barrier soon, but needs to make sure he saves it to counter out Victorious.
That's really all they got to go on here. That's a very aggressive grab, layered up with the self-destruct, not the ideal angle, gets no one. Doesn't even make much space, just big pull back from
big shadow.
The Earth Shadow. Pop Frost, who just had his own one available, and he might not be able to respawn to use it at the rate that this fight is going. New Paradigm, the gong will ring out. No one's going to respawn in time, and PHOENiX, they were able to do it.
They're able to find the correct ultimates at the right time as well. New Paradigm had a fantastic defense, all things considered, across the majority of Numbani, but they could not hold fully on any of the points, which is the issue here because they had a lot of time burned off of A, forcing the overtime. 2 minutes 30 remaining to push into B, which was not I don't believe that one went into overtime, but it was very close. There wasn't too much time going into C, and it still was basically a full distance push required from the PHOENiX offense to actually complete the map and get that map win. And it was very tight sort of timing for PHOENiX, but they managed to pull on through. The final engagement going in there, a couple of missed shots, a couple of misplays for New Paradigm, and the previous couple of fights, again, ultimates going wide, ultimates not getting the kind of value they're looking for, and 2 massive team cleanups in the favor of PHOENiX, allowing them to charge both Graviton Surge and a Shatter that finishes the game.
I mean, it says a lot that in that penultimate fight, there was the grab and the Shatter that both came out of PHOENiX. New Paradigm were barely able to rescue it with a grab and a self-destruct, and by the time the last fight came around, there was already another grab available for PHOENiX. It really just says a lot. That's the one point of disparity over the course of that was in the ultimate economy.
And now we're up 2-0 in the series in favor of PHOENiX as we hit the midway point for this final match of the evening. We are going to take a break, but when we do come back, we're going to find out the winner here. Who takes it up between PHOENiX and New Paradigm? Find out after this.